They said an alpha's scars meant weakness, half-blind, broken, unfit to lead. But when the healer returned, the mate he once rejected, he faced a choice no wolf could outrun: power or love. The gates opened on a night that smelled of rain and iron. Wolves lined the path in 2 uneasy rows, heads dipped, eyes bright with the kind of pity an alpha hates. Torches guttered in the wind, throwing and catching on the wet shine of stone. From the saddle, Varric sat too straight, as if even the leather could feel his pride and must not be allowed to pity him. A blood-stiff bandage crossed his left eye at a diagonal. Beneath it, the socket throbbed like a second heart. Claw marks raked his ribs and shoulder, rough-stitched from the field and gone angry with travel. No one spoke first. That was custom, and also mercy. A wind lifted, carrying whispers anyway. Half-blind. Rogues left him for carrion. Can he scent a challenge coming from his bad side? Varric swung down from the horse without help. The effort cost him a breath and a stagger, but he made the ground catch him clean. When the nearest beta moved as if to offer an arm, Varric's good eye cut like winter. The beta stopped mid-step, hands empty, eyes down. "Alpha," Elder Bren said at last, voiced the creak of old trees. "Home." Varric answered with a nod that could have cut glass. "Hold the patrols double for 3 nights," he told his captains. "Rogue tracks will circle back. They always do." "Aye," came the murmur. He took 2 steps forward, then the world tilted. Pain flared along his ribs like a rake of fire. His vision split, dark and torch gold, then leaped back into one. He ground his teeth and refused the sway. "Bring him inside," Bren said. "Not to Varric, never to Varric, but to the air that would obey." "The east wing." "The alpha chambers are west," said a young voice before it could think better of itself. Bren did not turn. "The east wing is closer to the infirmary, and dry." Varric's mouth curved, the thread of a smile, no warmth in it. "Am I to be caged with tinctures and steam?" he asked, voice low enough to let the torches lean closer to hear. "You are to live," Bren replied, "and to rule if you mean to. The order has been sent." "What order?" "For the healer." The word cracked the night. A muscle flickered in Varric's jaw. A long time ago, under a different moon, that word had meant future and flame and a hand you didn't want to let go. Under this moon, it meant a door he had slammed on his own hand. "She's gone," he said. "She left." Bren's eyes thinned. "She left because you told her there was no place for her here." "The pack has a healer," Varric said too quickly. "We have poultices and good intentions," Bren said, and the wind took the softness from his tone. "The rogue's claws were salted with ash. You carry more than wounds." Silence gathered around the word ash. Everyone knew what ash did to a wolf's healing, slowed it, muddied it, turned heat to fever. Varric's good eye darkened. From the back of the gathering, a wolf whined, thin and fearful. Somewhere in the yard, a horse stamped and rattled a bridle. She came with the first rain, not with the dawn, not with the pale mercy morning gives. With rain, hard, quick cleansing. Hoofbeats drummed in the yard. A gray mare shouldered close to the post and snorted. Leora slid down with the clean economy of someone who'd been on the road long enough to wear grit like a second skin. A dark healer's mantle clung wet to her shoulders. Beneath it, leather ties crossed a white tunic. Her hair, sun-brown, always escaping braids, was pinned in something like order, though the ride and the wet had pulled a few rebellious strands loose to frame a face that could look kind or cutting, depending where you stood. She didn't look around to see where she stood. She pulled a satchel from the saddle, and glass clicked within. A second bag followed, heavy enough to hit the mud with a thud. Her boots left clean prints on the slick stone, straight to the steps, up through the open doors. The pack parted, not out of deference, though there was that, but because history moved when she did, and wolves with sense learned long ago not to get under its feet. Leora, Bren said, and there was relief in it he didn't try to hide. Elder. She gave him a small bow of the head. Her voice was steady, cool as the rain. You said Dyer. You meant it. His mouth twitched. I did. Her gaze traveled, not rushing, not lingering. She took in the doubled patrols, the sharpened spears, the wet smell of leather and fear. Then finally, she let her eyes find him. Some wounds are visible, others keep their own counsel. Varric held her gaze for 3 beats longer than a man immune to pain might have. He made that look an act of will, and knew she would see it. Half his face was all hard lines and control. The other half, the wrapped half, was a map of the night he didn't intend to tell anyone about. The scars across his shoulder showed where claws had tasted him and not found him enough to keep. Alpha, she said, and nothing in her tone broke. Not the old hurt, not the moon ago night it came from, not the memory of hands almost touching, and then not. Healer, he returned, making the word a title, not a name. It landed between them like a blade placed carefully on a table. Bren cleared his throat. The infirmary is prepared. It isn't, Leora said, without rudeness. But it will be. She handed her satchel to an apprentice hovering near the door. Boil water, 2 kettles, clean linen, light only the east brazier, the west draws smoke back with this wind. She jerked her chin at the heavy bag. That one goes to the table. Careful. The apprentice ran. 2 more fell in beside him, grateful to have something to do that wasn't listening. Leora took a step closer to Varric and stopped a wolf's length away. Professional distance. Mercy, too. How long since the first stitching? She asked. And with what thread? Yesterday, Varric said. Before the ride back? She raised a brow. So field work. Yes? Salted claws? He hesitated, then ash. Her breath thinned, not surprise, confirmation. Then the fever's already looking for you. She nodded once, decision made. I need 20 minutes to prepare. You'll give me that and the east wing. A laugh, sharp, brittle, flickered at the edge of the crowd and died when Varric's eye cut toward it. He looked back at Leora. You'll have 10, he said. You'll have a scar that won't knit right, she said, mild as tea, and a fever that eats good sense, 20. He stared at her for a count of 5. Rain drilled the stones. Somewhere high in the hall, a shutter banged, open and shut, like a warning you could ignore until the wind tore the hinge free. 20, Varric said. Inside, the east wing had always been clean, but unloved, meant for guests and the sort of wolves who didn't mind smelling like boiled willow bark. Leora turned it into a place a body could decide to keep living in. She warmed water until it breathed steam. She lay out needles and bone clips. She ground leaves that looked like nothing and smelled like a forest trying to remember spring. She unstoppered a dark vial and let the room take 1 breath of it, then stoppered it again. Not yet, she told the air. You get that if you earn it. Varric stood. He would stand to be tended until his legs forgot how. She let him keep the dignity and didn't call him on it. First, she went to the claw marks along his ribs and shoulder. The field stitches were black with travel, pulling too tight. She clipped them and set the scraps of thread into a little blue dish. With a cloth that smelled faintly of mint and smoke, she cleaned carefully, her hands steady where his breath hitched. Then she drew fresh stitches, neat, strong, meant to hold through pain and pride alike. Only when the last knot was tied did she straighten, study his face, and reach for the bandage at his eye. I'm going to look, she said, quiet. He gave a single nod. She unwound the dressing slowly. The skin beneath had time to remember it was skin and not a drum-beating pain. When the last turn fell away, she drew a controlled breath. Not horror, assessment. She took the cleaned cloth again, held it ready, and said, softer than before, I'm sorry. Don't, he said, sharper than he wanted. Don't. Pity. It isn't pity, she said. It's grief for what was yours. And I'm telling you, I'll help you keep what is. Something in his spine let go of a notch. She adjusted the cloth, set a fresh dressing, and retied the bandage with a knot that would hold through a fight and a fall, and still remember how to be kind when it came off again. You'll sleep, she said. I don't. You will, she repeated. Because the fever waits at the threshold, and I don't intend to let it in. He almost smiled. It was a broken thing, but alive. The brazier kept low, throwing long orange shadows across the chamber walls. Steam rose in curls from the copper kettle, filling the air with the sharp bite of willow bark and the faint sweetness of elderflower. Leora moved between table and hearth, quiet, efficient, her boots making no more sound than the flick of her sleeves. On the bed, Varric lay propped against the headboard, every breath a weight dragged through his chest. He fought the instinct to pace the floor, to snarl at stillness, to rise and prove strength he didn't have. His wolf pressed under his skin, restless and resentful at being forced to mend instead of strike. Lie back, she said, not looking up from the poultice she crushed. Her tone had the calm edge of command that expected obedience without force. He almost barked a refusal, but the effort cost too much, and something in her voice cut deeper than pride. Slowly he lowered himself until the furs caught him. The fever came in waves. At first only heat along his skin, a shimmer in the corner of his good eye. Then deeper, bones tightening, sweat dampening his hair, heartbeat climbing too fast. He pressed his teeth together, willing silence to hold. But silence betrayed him when a groan slipped out. Her hand was there before he could stop it, laying cool linen across his brow. He flinched, not at the touch itself, but at how much he wanted to lean into it. His body remembered her even when his pride tried to forget. She hummed under her breath, a sound so soft he thought at first it was the kettle. But no, the tune had weight, memory, the kind of melody a wolf pup hears in the crook of a mother's arm. The old mate's lullaby, sung when the moon was still bright on them. His chest tightened. His wolf surged, tail lashing behind the ribs of his body, howling not in anger, but in recognition. Stop, he rasped. Her voice didn't break stride. If you don't want it, don't listen, but your wolf does. He turned his face away, but the song reached him anyway, soft as breath, steady as pulse. Against his will, his clenched hands eased. The fever dragged him down, but her song made the descent something less like drowning and more like surrender. When he surfaced hours later, the chamber was dim. Rain tapped the shutters like an insistent guest. Leora sat near the hearth, sleeves rolled, grinding something green into powder. Her eyes were shadowed with fatigue, but her spine was unbent. She had not left. You should rest, he said, voice raw. She lifted her head, surprised he'd spoken first. I've done worse nights. Not for me. Her expression didn't soften. Once you asked me not to. Silence stretched, not hostile, just heavy. I told you, he said finally, you were too gentle for a warrior's mate. She looked at him for a long moment, mortar in her hands. I remember. He stared at the rafters. I lied. Her hands stilled. The rain made the only sound. I wasn't afraid of you, he went on, voice low. I was afraid of what the pack would see in me if I chose you. That they'd think I wanted comfort instead of strength. That they'd scent weakness. He swallowed. So I made it true. I turned strength into weakness by refusing it. She set the mortar down with careful precision. And you think telling me this now makes it better? No, he said. It makes it worse, because I see it. Every time you look at me, I see what I threw away. Her jaw tightened. For a heartbeat, her wolf pressed close, amber in her gaze, but she held it back. You don't get to mend that with words, she said, tone even. Not with confessions made because you're fevered and cornered. You chose pride. You made me leave my home and find my work among strangers. His throat worked. And if I said I regret it? Then that's yours to live with. She turned back to the herbs. Regret doesn't undo scars. From the doorway, call shifted. Elder Bren says the rival packs scent weakness. They'll press a challenge before the moon turns. Varek's hand curled into the furs. Let them. You can't fight blind, Call said, blunt. Then I'll fight half blind, Varek snapped, though the effort left him panting. Leora's voice cut through before silence could rot the air. He can fight, but not yet, not until the fever breaks and not until the wounds knit. She didn't glance at Varek, didn't seek his approval. She spoke as fact. Push him sooner and he'll fall. Call nodded, reluctant but respectful. He left, shutting the door with a weight that spoke of trouble close at hand. Varek closed his eye. They'll circle like vultures. They already are, she said. And if I can't stand? Then the pack must decide if it wants a scarred alpha, she answered, or a corpse. She ground the last of the herbs, firm, relentless. And I must decide whether I want a patient or a mate. The words landed between them like flint striking steel. He flinched, not from the wounds, not from the fever, but from the raw truth. Leora poured the powder into a steaming bowl, stirred until the water clouded, then carried it to him. She held it out, not pleading, commanding. Drink. He took it, hand brushing hers. For the first time in a long time, he didn't pull away. Outside, the rain thinned. Somewhere in the forest, a howl echoed, nearer this time. The challenge was not far away. The storm had broken by the next night, but the air still smelled of iron. Clouds dragged low across the moon, heavy as old grudges. The pack gathered in the stone courtyard, torches wedged into sconces, their flames straining against the damp. A low hum of unease passed between wolves, like the shiver of leaves in wind. They had heard the rumors. They had scented the weakness. And weakness never went unanswered. The rival came from the northern ridge, Garen, broad, brutal, a wolf who smiled too easily at blood. He strode into the circle of firelight, voice pitched to carry. Varek, half-blind, scarred. Your rogues did more than wound you. They unseated you. This pack deserves strength. He let the words hang, deliberate, while the younger wolves shifted on their feet. Some didn't meet their alpha's eye. Others did, but with doubt heavy in their gaze. Varek stood at the edge of the torchlight, his posture rigid, a cloak thrown across his shoulders. His good eye burned, but his chest pulled tight with every breath. The fever had eased, but the wounds dragged at him. Strength, Varek said, his voice carrying low thunder. You mistake scars for weakness. These marks are proof of survival. Tell me, what proof do you carry? A ripple ran through the pack. Garen's smile sharpened. I carry no wounds because I finish what I start. He took a step closer. And I will finish you tonight. Before Varek could reply, Leora's voice cut through the murmurs. Calm, clear, not raised, but strong enough to still the whispers. Scars do not diminish a wolf. They show what he has endured and what he has returned from. An alpha who survives ash-poisoned claws and stands here still is worth 10 who never faced them. Her words didn't shield him. They steadied him, anchored him. Wolves in the crowd lowered their eyes, shame flickering at their own doubt. Varek's jaw tightened, and though he didn't look at her, he felt the truth of her at his side like steel braced under bone. Trial, Garen declared, by combat, tonight, before the pack. The circle widened. Torches hissed as damp wind licked at flame. Wolves backed to the edges, forming the ring that had seen generations of challenges. Varek unfastened the cloak and let it fall. His scars gleamed in the torchlight, raw, unhidden. He drew a slow breath, not to ease pain, but to claim it. Leora's eyes found him once before he stepped forward. She didn't beg, didn't plead. Only said, low enough for him alone. Win with cunning, not fury. The fever took strength. You must give it strategy. He inclined his head once, barely, but enough. Then he stepped into the circle. The fight began with a clash of bodies, the sound of bone and breath and rage colliding. Garen pressed hard, brute strength driving Varric back toward the stones. The crowd growled approval. Blood stirs blood. Varric's vision blurred on the left, leaving shadows where Garen's strikes came fast. A blow landed to his ribs. Pain bloomed like fire across his scars. He staggered. Whispers hissed from the pack. He falters. From the edge, Leora's voice rose, not shouting, but cutting clear. "Hold, Alpha!" Something in the tone steadied him. His wolf snarled awake, claws raking the dirt as if remembering it could still stand. Garen charged again, certain of victory, but Varric shifted at the last moment, letting Garen's momentum carry him past. A twist, a strike to the back of the knee. Garen stumbled. Varric seized the opening, driving him down into the mud. The fight turned raw, teeth bared, claws striking. Every breath was agony, but cunning guided where brute force would fail. Garen's hand went for his throat. Varric caught it, twisted, slammed it against the ground. Torchlight caught his scars, his single burning eye, and the pack saw not weakness, but will. "Yield," Varric growled, low and final. Garen snarled, but stilled beneath the weight of his grip. The silence of the pack pressed down. He spat into the dirt, then ground the word out. "Yield." Varric rose slowly, chest heaving, blood mixing with rain on his skin. He didn't raise his arms in victory. He didn't need to. The rival's submission was louder than any cheer. The pack bent their heads, some in respect, some in shame for doubting. At the edge, Leora's shoulders eased, though her face gave nothing away. Only her eyes burned when they met his across the circle. She had not fought for him, but she had steadied him, and he knew it. Bren stepped forward, voice carrying. The challenge is ended. The Alpha stands. But beneath the torches, with Garen limping away and the pack bowing their heads, Varric felt no triumph. The scars still burned. The bond he had once denied still pulled at him, stronger now than the blood singing in his veins. And for the first time, he wondered if the title Alpha was worth less than the woman who had stood by him in silence and in truth. The courtyard still smelled of blood and rain. Wolves drifted back to their dens in silence, their eyes averted, their loyalty rethreading itself around the Alpha who had bled for them. But when the last torch guttered low, when the rival limped into the dark, Varric did not feel victory, only the weight of scars pulling tight across his skin and the gaze of the one who had watched him fight when she should never have needed to. Leora stood just beyond the ring, arms folded, healer's satchel slung across her body. She looked like she had during his first wound tending, calm, controlled, distant. Yet her eyes betrayed her, glinting with the bond neither of them could deny. He approached, slow, stiff from pain. The pack parted to give him space, though some lingered, curious. He let them hear, let them see. "You saw me falter," he said, voice low, meant for her but not hidden. "You saw me bleed, and still you stood with me." Her expression didn't soften. "I saw you nearly fall. I saw pride hold you up longer than sense. If not for cunning, you would have lost." His jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. "You told me once," she went on, "that a healer was too gentle for a warrior's mate. Tonight you proved the opposite. Strength without wisdom is just fury, and fury would have killed you." He drew a breath, ragged, heavy. "Then hear me now. If being Alpha means losing you again, then I'll walk away. I would rather be no one's Alpha than live without you." The courtyard hushed. Even the rain seemed to still, listening. Her breath caught, sharp in her throat. "Do you know what you're saying?" "Yes," he said. His good eye locked on hers. "I chose pride once. I will not choose it twice. I will not put this throne before you. Not again. Her arms loosened at her sides, the satchel sliding lower. The mask she'd worn since her return cracked, not broken, but bending under truth. Words are easy after battle, she said. But when the fever comes back, when scars ache in the cold, when the pack whispers again, what then? Then, he said, stepping closer until only a breath remained between them, I will remember this night, and I will choose you again, every time, because an alpha leads by more than claws and teeth. He leads by the strength he claims and the strength he holds at his side. For the first time, her eyes shone with something other than cool control. Pain, hope, long-buried love, unearthed like embers fanned alive. Bren's voice cut across the courtyard, grave but certain. The pack needs to hear it, Alpha. All of it. Varric didn't turn from her. He raised his voice, carrying across the stone, across the wolves who lingered at the edges. I am scarred. I am half blind. I am not what I was, but I am still Alpha, and I claim the mate I once rejected. Before you all, I claim her, Leora, Healer, Wolf, mine. The pack bowed their heads, some reluctant, some in relief. The bond that had flickered now roared, felt in every wolf's bones like thunder rolling across earth. Leora looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching the scarred lines of his face. Then she placed her hand, steady, sure, over the wound at his chest, where claw marks crossed his heart. You nearly lost this, she said softly. Don't make me stitch it together again. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Not unless you intend to keep it. I do, she whispered. The bond sealed between them, not with ceremony, but with the simple truth of touch and vow. If you like this story, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps this channel grow. Thanks for watching.